training camp is at the forefront. It began in the middle of last week. And I know that a lot of people get super excited about training camp. I really don't get very excited about training camp. I used to think that, this one guy has a great camp. Everyone's raving about him. That means he's going to be good. But then eventually I just got super wise to that kind of stuff. Like, after long periods of time of people hyping up these players who just didn't amount to anything, but they had a great camp. So, we got to listen to all the Eagles insiders like Dave Spadaro and Chris McPherson. They'd always be talking about how great this guy was, but then the dude wouldn't amount to anything. So I know that a lot of people get extremely excited about training camp and they hype up, this player had these stats in training camp, and the quarterback had this amount of passing touchdowns and interceptions, and this guy threw 5 interceptions in training camp, so he's going to be bad. I remember one year, I think it was Jimmy Garoppolo, he ended up throwing 5 interceptions in one training camp practice, and the guy ended up going to the Super Bowl. So that kind of stuff is just irrelevant to me. I think that it's kind of cringe when people are posting this stuff and getting a little too excited about something that just doesn't really matter. Call me a little bit cynical, but training camp, to me, is more for the players to learn about, the coaching expectations and kind of learn the playbook and learn how they're going to compete during the season. It has a lot less to do with, your statistics when it comes to training camp. I'd say preseason matters a little bit more, but, even people get a little too excited about preseason and the same kind of stuff happens. But I would put a lot more stock in preseason than I ever would training camp. This is just a time that these players can get reps in order to show how great they are to the coaching staff. It's not really for the fans. As you see the fans post on Twitter, my quarterback's better than your quarterback because your quarterback had less touchdowns in a practice than mine did. When these are different teams, these are different drills that are for different positions. So I just find it to be ridiculous. I find it to be, just people just build their own narratives about training camp. They'll be like, this player, he didn't do well because the other team has a good defense, and our team doesn't have a good defense, and that's why that quarterback performed better than our quarterback. And it's at the end of the day, they're just excuses, and yeah. I just don't put a lot of stock in training camp. People just get excited about it. I understand, to each their own. If you get excited about training camp, then that's just on you, I don't get very excited about training camp, and not to say that you shouldn't be excited about training camp. Maybe, the off season is a long time. It's around 8 months or something like that. If that's something that you get excited about, then you know what? That's just something that you get excited about. And, if that's what you want to cheer about, then that's what you want to cheer about. For me, I want to see results on the field when the team is actually playing. Okay? Talk's cheap, right? We can talk about how great of a coach Sirianni is by watching videos on the Eagles insider page or whatever the social media account for the Eagles puts out. He's great because look how much he's motivating the players. Well, I want to see that on the field. I want to see the results. Jalen Hurts, he had this number of touchdowns and not a lot of interceptions. I want to see how that goes on the field. To me, the most important thing about training camp is making sure that your players are coming out of it unscathed and not injured, because your players don't mean anything if they're not playing. If they're on the sideline and they're not playing because they're injured, then it doesn't mean anything to me because they're not having an impact on the team. So, I know a lot of people are like, this player's flying around and, they're making all these plays, but are they healthy? And that's the end result. I'd rather have and it's the same thing with preseason. I would rather have my players come out into the season as healthy, my core players, than see them make a bunch of plays in training camp and preseason and have them come out as injured. So that's just how I personally feel. I'd rather have healthy players than injured players, which